The hosts and guests on Everything's Messy podcast are not licensed healthcare professionals. The discussions in our episodes are not personalized medical advice. Always consult a qualified healthcare provider for medical guidance. Never delay seeking professional medical advice or emergency assistance because of our podcast. We encourage consulting with a healthcare professional before making any significant health changes. By listening to our podcast, you agree to the disclaimer. Thank you for listening to Everything's Messy podcast.
Liver is all around. We call it kind of nature's multivitamin because it's just full of virtually everything. It even has vitamin C. We're told animal foods don't have vitamin C, but liver is actually a source of vitamin C. And, it has that. It has vitamin D. It has choline, vitamin B12, zinc, copper. The list goes on, tens of thousands of nutrients, some that we haven't even discovered yet. So when you break these down and then you look at how these nutrients impact the body and different functions, more of a holistic approach, you'll see that some of these nutrients, choline in particular, randomized controlled trials show that it is so impactful for brain health. And you're getting that in liver and egg yolks and dairy. You can get that in a wide array of animal foods. And we didn't discover this vitamin, I believe it was until the 1990s, or this nutrient until the 1990s. And you could look at B12, you can look at zinc. All these nutrients impact different functions of the body. And so, just getting liver in your diet is where we suggest starting first and foremost because of how nutrient dense it is and how profound it can be for your health.
Hey, welcome to Everything's Messy podcast, where we celebrate the beautiful but messy life experiences that most, if not all, people go through. Get ready to embark on an exciting journey through the raw and unfiltered stories of everyday people. Here, we dive into messy realities of life, from making messy mistakes to triumphs and everything in between. Are you sensing a theme? That's right, it's messy. But this just isn't about the mess. It's about finding strength and resilience in the midst of it all. We'll explore how health, fitness, and wellness play a crucial role in navigating life's twists and very messy turns. And we'll challenge conventional systems, because sometimes the most unconventional paths lead to the greatest discoveries. Join us as we embrace the messy, beautiful, and endlessly fascinating stories. Each episode is a testament to the power of our messy journeys and the beauty that emerges from the mess. So grab your favorite beverage, coffee, sparkling water, whatever it may be, and prepare to be inspired. Are you ready? Let's get messy. Hey everyone, welcome to Everything's Messy podcast. I am your messy host, Sarah. Joining me today, I've got Craig McCloskey. I don't even know where to begin as far as how excited I am that you're here. But we've got you, the head of education, sort of leader of this dissected organ phenomenon that's happening. You've got a bachelor's from Penn State in nutrition and wellness. You're a certified wellness coach. First of all, welcome. Welcome to Everything's Messy.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited that you're here. And when we talk about the founder and the leader of the organ movement, this company that you are basically doing the education for, Ancestral supplements. I've talked about it before on this podcast. One of the things that I can just share very quickly is a lot of supplements that I've taken, it's very slow to notice anything. You've got to stick with it a long time. Not to say that there isn't maybe some improvement, but immediately on these supplements, specifically talking about the beef thyroid and the adrenal support. What a huge difference. Let's just jump off there and how you found this, knowledge of these organ supplements.
Yeah, your story isn't unique. We hear this time and time again from our customers and so many people when they introduce organs into their diet, whether that is fresh organs into their food or they're taking supplement form like ours are freeze-dried, they experience many, many benefits. There's the list is just a mile long of Amazon reviews and testimonials. And I think that just speaks to the power that introducing whole foods, these nutrient dense foods, because they're an array of vitamins and minerals and cofactors and enzymes that we're not getting here in our Western diet, eating ultra processed foods. So when we can incorporate these little bit of organs into our diet, people tend to see massive results in a short amount of time that they typically wouldn't experience otherwise. So I first came to learning about organs. I grew up standard American diet, as a kid, fast food, but I was introduced into organs in college. I loved that my dad, he was an avid gardener and hunter. So he was pretty in tune with nature and the environment. And so I went hunting with him one year in 2016, and I killed a buck, and I wanted to honor that entire animal, horns to hooves, nose to tail. And I kept all the organs, and, I cooked them up and shared them with my dog and my family at the time. And I ran out, and I had never heard of, desiccated freeze-dried organ supplements. So that led me to Amazon. This is late 2016, early 2017. And that's when I found Ancestral supplements on Amazon, and they were not even a year old at that point. And I was just in love with their message. Everything made sense because at that point in my college curriculum, I was really starting to get into this holistic wellness space and learning as much about health that I really could. And that's when I was first introduced to organ supplements.
I love that. And so you sort of did this rabbit hole deep dive into whatever you could learn about these supplements. And some of the things that I'm finding when we talk about, you said you hear it a lot that people are like, oh my gosh, I feel so good. I contrast that, right? The comparison is we are so deficient with the food that is out there. And it's amazing to me. We don't realize how bad we're feeling until we start to feel better, and to have this sort of product to do that. Is there really a difference if you were to go just cook the liver in the pan versus what you're getting out of the bottle?
That's a great question, because our organs are freeze dried raw, and that takes out all the moisture, which also, moisture is what harbors bacteria. So there's no real risk of anything becoming contaminated because all the moisture is removed. So they're very safe and effective, but they're freeze dried, so it retains all the nutrients in it. It's not heated to high temperatures. Now, when you're heating it, you do lose some vitamins and minerals. Like vitamin C is destroyed when you heat vitamin C. Some B vitamins are lost. So you are going to lose any proportion of nutrients when you do cook food, whether that is an egg or steak or vegetables. But when you look at every culture that has had throughout time, that has had good health, they've always eaten a portion of their food cooked. They've always eaten a portion raw. They've always eaten some fermented foods. They've eaten a wide array of foods prepared differently. And raw has always been a portion of that because of how nutrient dense raw foods can be. And so, yes, you will lose some nutrients when you cook it, but ours are freeze dried to preserve all the beneficial nutrients in there.
That's amazing. I also read somewhere that we are probably the only country out there who doesn't embrace eating organs. We, for some reason, that we turn up our nose. It's not something that, I know my mom talks about having to eat liver and onions and stuff like that, but it's very scarce, even to go find actual organ meats in the shopping market. It's like you probably will only find something in the frozen section. If any, like it's really hard to find just organ meat.
Yeah. And it didn't always used to be that way. We kind of bred that out of our westernized culture. It has been seen as kind of a poor man's food. We started valuing the fillets and the New York strips, which are very tasty, but they're not as nutrient dense as liver or heart would be. And you can go back maybe just 100 years ago on the Titanic, and you can look at that menu, and there was organs on that menu on the Titanic. And that's how far removed we've become. But really, when you look at many different cultures, there's always some form of organ-based dish, whether that's blood sausage or, you look at any other culture, you'll see some sort of organ-based dish, whereas we don't have that. We have Cheerios and all the ultra-processed foods because the corn and wheat and soy is subsidized and it's cheap to manufacture. So there's a lot at play there, but really we don't have a palate for organs anymore. We used to, just a few generations ago, we would have had that palate for it, but we didn't grow up on that food.
That's so true. And so as you found this journey, what sort of, we kind of talked a little bit before I hit record, but what sort of pushed you in this direction to find this?
Yeah, I get eating organs can sound so far out there, and it did for me too at first. But I've always had a love for kind of health and nutrition because I played sports growing up, as many sports as you could think of. And I ultimately went to Penn State and I played a couple different sports. And I always understood that nutrition impacted my performance at a very low level. Get my carbs in, just eat calories, and that'll impact my performance.
Energy.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't understand that the quality of calories mattered for my performance. I was eating low quality fried foods and anything I could really get to get the calories in. But I was inflamed. I had digestive issues, skin issues in college, and I was exercising 3-4 hours a day, and I still had all these issues. I couldn't out exercise my diet. And so my sophomore year in college, I had just become, I declared myself as a nutrition major. And I was still on the swim team and I'm playing baseball. And I'll never forget this, but it was February of 2015. And I woke up one morning and my dad, because I was commuting at the time, my dad had come into my bedroom and I could already tell something was wrong. He had the phone in his hand at 6 o'clock in the morning. And he told me that my aunt found my uncle that morning and he hadn't waken up. He was cold and that he had passed away. And that set a very vivid picture in my mind of my uncle. And turns out he had a massive heart attack in his sleep. He was 43 years young and had 2 kids under 10 at the time. And he just had a massive heart attack. I mean, both of his arteries were like 95% blocked. And what has shocked me and our family was he was not outwardly unhealthy. I mean, he might have been a little bit overweight, but it wasn't like he was struggling in life at all. So it was a shock to all of us. And so as a sophomore in college, that kind of put me back a couple months before I really kind of got a grasp on it. And then I went like full force and I wanted to learn as much as I could about heart disease and stress and nutrition, everything that I could. So that led me to learning nutrition and everything health outside of my college curriculum. I started reading books. I started flying across the country to attend live events, listening to all the podcasts that I could. And what I realized is that what I was learning in my college curriculum competed with this information that I was learning outside of it. So then I was at a loss for the next few years, really trying to figure out what was working. But the thing was, I was applying these tips in the books, in the podcast. I was eating different foods. I was exercising differently. I was prioritizing sleep and all these other things. My athletic performance went up as an athlete. I wasn't inflamed. I didn't have digestive issues anymore. I didn't have skin issues. And I changed what I was eating, but those were also some of the same foods that my college curriculum was saying to not eat, which is red meat, animal fats, and things like that. And so I decreased like vegetable oils and all that sort of stuff, and my health got better. And that's kind of my story.
I love that. And the things that you were reading in your college books about what it's taught, you just look at the American Heart Association that stamps it on the canola oil that tells you it's heart healthy, or the oatmeal that tells you it's going to pull all that cholesterol out and give you, have you be heart healthy. These were the things that I was being told in rehab, on top of them putting me on the Ornish diet. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's basically vegan. And I completely was worse off after they put me on that. And I thought they were the experts. I thought I needed to listen to them. I thought they knew what they were talking about. Went completely anemic, had zero, just bad energy, bad everything. Finally started listening, similar to you, to podcasts, learned about carnivore and these things like that. And as soon as I switched to that and went, like, my health went up, just incredibly the differences. Now, and I'm not trying to speak against vegan, because I have talked to a lot of people who say it works for them. For me, it did not work. It was not getting me it was making things worse. And adding those fats in the right way and the red meat back into my diet was just a complete change for me, like insane change. And then finding these supplements that like I said, you don't really know how bad you're feeling until you start to feel better. And that's just truly amazing. It really is.
Yeah. That your story isn't alone. I mean, there's so many people out there just like that. And I can fully attest that these organs are very powerful. When you're mentioning you went vegan and it hurt your health more than it helped it. I mean, I know a lot of individuals that are fully plant-based, vegetarian, vegan, and they do feel amazing. But typically, kind of taking a step back here and trying to look at it unbiasedly, like I would think that it's because they're removing a lot of maybe ultra-processed foods. Maybe they're doing a lot of other healthy lifestyle factors. Maybe they start walking more, getting a little bit more sun, or just things like that. And they start to feel better. But over a certain period of time, these nutrients, B vitamins, vitamin B12, we can store that in our body for maybe 3 to 5 years, but that's about the same amount of time. When you go vegan, after about 3 to 5 years, a lot of, vegans do drop off because of these nutrient stores running out. So if you can incorporate a little bit of meat back into your diet, and I'm an advocate of sustainably raised, regenerative meat that's well sourced. If you can incorporate some of this back into your diet, I mean, that's why people have such amazing results when they incorporate these organs, because we're not getting them in our diet otherwise.
Yeah. And the benefits of that, can you talk a little bit about what the benefits that bring when you start to switch to this sort of organ mind space of what it can do?
Yeah. I mean, just speaking from it from a nutrient perspective, I mean, you can break this down and talk about each nutrient individually. Liver is all around. We call it kind of nature's multivitamin, because it's just full of virtually everything. It even has vitamin C. We're told animal foods don't have vitamin C, but liver is actually a source of vitamin C. And, it has that. It has vitamin D. It has choline, vitamin B12, zinc, copper. The list goes on, tens of thousands of nutrients, some that we haven't even discovered yet. So when you break these down and then you look at how these nutrients impact the body and different functions, more of a holistic approach, you'll see that some of these nutrients, choline in particular, randomized controlled trials show that it is so impactful for brain health. And you're getting that in liver and egg yolks and dairy. You can get that in a wide array of animal foods. And we didn't discover this vitamin, I believe it was until the 1990s, or this nutrient until the 1990s. And you could look at B12, you can look at zinc. All these nutrients impact different functions of the body. And so, I mean, just getting liver in your diet is where we suggest starting first and foremost, because of how nutrient dense it is and how profound it can be for your health.
Absolutely. I mean, anywhere from, I can attest to the cardiac benefits all the way to just resupplying everything that you were losing anyway. I mean, just, my focus is better. I mean, just all, and I think that's attributed to the choline. There's just so many benefits that I've noticed. And I notice if I, miss a few days on accident, or I can start to feel my energy level go down. I can start to feel, a little more unbalanced or not focused enough, and putting it right back on. It's just, it really is amazing.
Yeah. I mean, we could talk about, you mentioned cardiac benefits. I mean, liver has vitamin K2. And when I was in college, this is something that they didn't really teach me. I learned about vitamin K just on the very most basic level. And they were always talking about vitamin K1. And I don't want to get too in depth here for the listeners. But vitamin K1, phytonadione, this is basically a plant molecule. You'll get this in carrots or leafy greens. But vitamin K2 is a different molecule that's found in animal foods. And this is something that Dr. Weston A. Price found when he visited all these traditional cultures in the early 1900s. He found that they were eating a lot more fat-soluble vitamins, vitamin A, D, E, and K2, and he called it activator X, vitamin K2. Oh. And they were eating 10 times as much as we were back in the 1900s, so we're probably eating a lot less now. And so vitamin K2, why I mention it is because this helps to clear calcium out of the arteries and puts it into the bones and the teeth where it belongs. Where it's supposed to be. Yeah. Right. And so if we are eating, calcium rich foods or vitamin D, but we're not getting in vitamin K, K2 specifically, because vitamin K1 doesn't necessarily have the same potency or the same benefits that vitamin K2 has, then you could be getting calcified arteries and not being able to clear it out effectively. So the same foods that we're being told to avoid, the animal fats and the butter and the liver, this is where you're going to find vitamin K2.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's amazing to me. And my heart attack was not because of high cholesterol, and it wasn't because of high blood pressure. Yet this was the standard American cocktail medicine that they put me on for having a heart attack. And those medicines made me it was worse and worse and worse and worse. When I finally weaned myself off of it and starting to feel better, not to mention what I know now about statins, I just want to scream when I hear somebody's being put on a statin as they move the goalpost further and further downward so they can prescribe more and more. And it's like, your body needs cholesterol. It needs to have that. Your brain needs it, but that you don't hear, unless you're in the wellness space, you don't hear that in mainstream.
Yeah, no, speaking of the statins and the cholesterol guidelines, there's a lot of corruption out there. And I don't, back in the late 1990s, early 2000s, the National Cholesterol Education Program actually lowered the cholesterol, the LDL threshold for what was considered high LDL pretty much overnight. And it went from, I believe it was like 100 down to 30. And then within just a couple years, 2004, they lowered it again, basically down to zero. So literally overnight, it qualified tens of more millions of healthy Americans to take statin. And if you can, the listener can learn more about this story. There's some good books out there, but they lowered this overnight based off virtually no good data. And it kept getting lowered and lowered. And now millions of Americans are essentially needlessly taking statins when all they really need to do is just live a healthy lifestyle, eat a healthy diet. But high cholesterol really isn't causal of heart disease or any of these major issues. Right. Inflammation is a big contributor, but the cholesterol in and of itself is very important, as you were mentioning.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and even when you, all the things they tell you, like don't have the salt, actually our body needs salt. It's not the salt you should avoid, it's the sugar. But of course, there's all this propaganda out there where the cereals, as we were talking about, and things like that are heart healthy and so much better for you. No, really, it's you need the salt. You don't need the sugar. And again, anything processed. And I think it's really sad to me. And especially like in my case, it took such a, huge event for me to wake up and really understand nutrition and where that comes from. And I want everyone to know this because I think there can be healing, there can be movement forward, momentum forward. You just have to have the right tools. And I feel so strongly that one of those tools is absolutely not only the supplements, but just liver in and of itself.
Yeah, I would love to talk more about that.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, go ahead.
Liver is, like we said, nature's multivitamin, and virtually every culture you can look at, I mean, they've included some form of organ in their diet. And that's really what our mission at Ancestral Supplements is to just put back in what the modern world left out. That's our tagline, because our modern world leaves a lot of these things out. So we're just trying to put back in a little bit of nourishment. And we found a way to bridge that gap because organs aren't that tasty to us anymore. And so it's easier to take this capsule, which, there's a lot of benefits to taking the desiccated organ supplements. And so we have a lot of different organs. I mean, we have virtually every organ or glandular. I mean, you mentioned thyroid and adrenal, and those are two powerful ones. I think thyroid is actually the number one bestseller next to liver. They're a toss up 1 and 2 because it's so powerful. But we have virtually pancreas, liver, kidney, spleen, intestines, brain. We have anyone you could think of. And we really wanted that to be a more targeted support because each one of these organs has its own unique nutrients and benefits. Intestines and tripe is a product that we sell. And that has, so many gut enzymes in it, GLP-1, all these specific nutrients that are great for gut health. But if an individual is going through like IBD, irritable bowel disease, or Crohn's or ulcerative colitis, these compounds in some of these organs can be very beneficial, as the science has shown.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, I've been on the thyroid since probably March is when I started, and by May, I had already reduced my Armour thyroid medication that I take by 30%. I'd already reduced it by 30%. That's just unbelievably huge to me because I was on over like 120 milligrams and now it's reduced 30%. So just knowing that it's like, it works, it's there. And, the goal would be to not have to take the Armour at all. But even if I can just get it down to the lowest that it can possibly be and have these other natural things that I can put on my body, that's a win as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. And I think that just speaks to the power that whole food has. I mean, the goal shouldn't be to be on a medication for life. And I don't believe people have to be for the large majority of individuals. And, if we can address our issues and our symptoms through food and improve our quality of life, I think that's the ultimate goal. We want to be there long-term in a high quality state to be there for our family, our friends, our children. And if we can do that through food, and because foods don't have negative side effects, like healthy foods, they're not going to come with a long list of side effects like a medication would, because we're taking all these medications that we're on, and what are the side effects that those are causing? And then we have to take another drug because of the side effects that first drug caused, and the list goes on and on. This is actually a major issue in culture today, and it's killing millions of Americans. And so if we can just add a little bit of whole foods into our diet, this could be a huge game changer for many individuals.
Absolutely. Yeah, I read even if you're working out, which I've recently, probably in the last year now, I've been weightlifting and completely changing the way that I work out. And I still have cardio, but a lot of it is weightlifting because there's just so much science in what your body, can do with the weightlifting. But I read that if you're not changing your diet, if you're still eating bad just because you're working out, you can't, what is it? You can't outwork out a bad diet.
Mm-hmm.
So you still have to have the things in place, the correct tools. And I want to say it's like 80% diet versus 20% working out. And that's a huge, those are big numbers of how the body needs to process everything. And again, big advocate of lifting weights, especially for women and working out. But if you're not changing the diet, if you're not changing the way that your circadian rhythm and waking up with the sunlight in your eyes and things like that, if you're not making those changes, without the diet, it's really not going to matter a lot. Maybe there may be some benefit, but not too much.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love the fact that I've always said movement gives us life. And I think a lot of individuals work out with a goal to lose weight and burn fat, which is an honorable goal, which we have overweight and obesity problems here in America. But I've always said that if you work out with the intention to gain health, like if your goal is to just gain health and a better quality of life, fat loss will just be one side effect of that person that you're becoming in the process of gaining health.
Right.
And so if you are doing that and doing movement that you love, walking or dancing or lifting weights, because all these come with different benefits.
Sure.
I mean, building muscle, HIIT training, high intensity, and it doesn't have to be anything crazy. You can start where you're at now. You're going to help your body to gain life, gain better health, gain better brain health, because all these types of movement are going to help your digestion. They're going to help detox your body to have better skin. If you're suffering from an autoimmune condition, I mean, movement can be that one thing, but also what you're putting in your body is even more important because you're taking something from the external environment and you're putting it into you. I mean, that's the most intimate thing that we can do. I think we've kind of put that on autopilot, but you're taking something from the external environment, whether that's a Cheeto, a steak, a piece of broccoli, like whatever that is, and you're putting it in you. That's going to be information that's going to tell your biology to do certain things. And when it comes to autoimmunity in particular, I mean, I'm a big fan of epigenetics because I think genetics, I think a lot of the times doctors will tell you that it's what your genetics say is king. Like if you have the genes for obesity, if you have the genes for Alzheimer's, genes for celiac disease or Crohn's or ulcerative colitis, then it's just a matter of time and you're going to get it. But what we're finding out in science is that it's not your genetics that ultimately rule you. It's what are you doing in your environment that's going to turn on those genes or turn off those genes?
Right. Which is so important.
Absolutely. So if you are walking, if you're eating the right foods or avoiding certain foods that are triggering these autoimmune genes, then you don't have to experience symptoms. It might take you weeks to months, depending on where you're at, or years. Exactly. But over time, and you realize what works for you and what doesn't, then you can heal your body.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh gosh. Well, very well said. I think that could be a whole nother.
I know. I know.
So let's break it down this way. For obviously we were talking about chronic illness and autoimmune. You're saying thyroid is the number one supplement out there. What would be a secondary recommendation?
Yeah. So I take thyroid occasionally when I'm trying to, if I have certain goals that I'm working towards. I mean, we use it mostly for individuals that do have thyroid conditions, and we suggest that, and we have a team of health experts that you can reach out to that work with you so you don't just go into it blindly. And we always encourage you to work with your physician when you're taking thyroid if you're on a medication or struggling with a health condition. But our first recommendation is usually always liver because it's just so nutrient dense and that's can help so many people. We also recommend bone marrow because that's just a nutrient powerhouse itself. It comes with so many fat soluble vitamins. So that's usually our second recommendation. And then from there, we get into what we call targeted support, which can be heart. If you have any type of heart or circulatory issue, heart is a good supplement to take. Pancreas for blood sugar, spleen. We have a spleen and we have a blood product, grass-fed blood. So this is good for iron because it's going to come with not just iron, but it's going to come with copper and all these other complementary nutrients that are going to help your body to absorb iron or get rid of excess iron, because people don't realize that, you need different nutrients when it comes to not just iron, but you also need complementary nutrients that help iron to be absorbed properly.
Yeah, to be absorbed correctly. Yeah, that's right.
Right. And so then we have all these other products, like I mentioned, the intestines products and the brain product. And then so all these other, depends on what the individual wants or needs at that time, then we can go from there.
That's awesome. So recently I started taking the female supplement.
Yeah.
I have very good feedback for that. And I think one of the things is the regulation. And, after my heart attack, it kicked me into perimenopause. So I was having these terrible symptoms and things like that. And then started taking this supplement. And I'm not going to say that completely went away, but it definitely took the degree that it was, the severity of it, and brought it way down. And I assume the more that I'm on it, the more work that it'll be doing. So in comparison to that, is there something like that for men?
We have a product called MoFo. This is male optimization formula. It's a combination of liver, heart, bone marrow, and testicle. So it's basically a product that actually, if athletes take this, it might register testosterone because of the testicle in there, because of how high that would be in testosterone. So we wouldn't recommend professional athletes to take this because it could show up on a drug test. But again, this is just whole food. And that's the product that we have for men. That's what I take when I'm working out. Then we have our Fem product, which is basically the female reproductive system of a healthy cow. So, and we have a lot of great testimonials on those two products.
Yeah. And I would think, especially like we were talking about the diet here in America and everything with convenience, there seems to be a lot of soy that are being consumed and things like that. And so it's making estrogen in men go up. And, you need something to combat that. So with this, what did you call it? What is it?
MoFo.
MoFo. Does that take the estrogen out and put the testosterone back in, or how is that working?
Simply, yeah, pretty much. We do have some good testimonials of individuals sharing their blood work after they've taken just MoFo, continuing to do their regular routine, lifting weights. If you go to Amazon and look at these testimonials, I mean, they share their blood work of their testosterone before and after. And it's just, night and day difference of continuing the same routine and adding that product in. And I've noticed the benefits myself when I take it and when I don't, but it's all around. I personally love it.
No, it's amazing. I strongly, I strongly stand behind them for sure. So what's going back a little bit. So when you're thinking about going into the conventional medical system and you're reading all these things, one of the things that I learned going through this journey is doctors get maybe a whole 4 hours of nutrition education that they then come in and have to apply somehow. And so they're not really even getting any educational part on that. What stood out to you in the, conventional books that you're reading? What stood out to you compared to what you read in the outside space? And you were like, oh, this is really contradictory.
Oh, probably the number one thing, because of the lens that I was looking through in college with my uncle and his heart attack, seed oils probably was maybe that number one thing that really kind of stuck out to me. And I believe, after doing a lot of the research, because of how much we've increased our seed oil consumption, and because we're recommended to consume seed oils, they're in over 80% of things in the grocery store. How are they healthy in Whole Foods, but how are they unhealthy in a Snickers? Like, they're in the same products, but we can talk about the science about why I believe they're unhealthy. But that's what I noticed was a big difference in my college curriculum. Eat this, don't eat animal fats. It's in the dietary guidelines. That's what was in the My Plate, the food guide pyramid. Eat those, don't eat animal fats like butter and lard and tallow and ghee. But eat soybean, canola, corn, cottonseed, sunflower. But then when I was doing outside research and listening to podcasts from doctors and experts in their field, this isn't just blogs, this is just peer-reviewed evidence, randomized controlled trials, it was showing the exact opposite, that if you overconsume these to a large extent, because of how inflammatory they are and what they do inside the body, they cause your cholesterol to oxidize. Because of that, this is really what is leading in a large part to chronic health issues.
Yeah. Gosh. Seed oils. It's in everything. It's in absolutely everything. My sister and I, I think we had bought some, just like a bag of cheese. We were, she's in Texas, I'm in California, but we always read the labels, right? So we turn the bag, and this was just like a shredded bag of mozzarella. Like there should be nothing else in it. You turn it over and there's seed oil in the shredded bag of mozzarella. And it's like, they sneak it in everywhere.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Like, it's amazing to me.
It's cheap to manufacture, and it has a long shelf life. Butter goes bad, tallow, so it has a long shelf life, and it's really cheap to manufacture. It's subsidized, soy. And so it's incredible. I mean, it's in everything. And we had no seed oils, I'll say virtually no seed oils in the late 1800s, because this is when seed oils were really put into culture. Now, there's some one-off instances, maybe with the ancient Egyptians a couple thousand years ago. They were able to actually press some seeds and get seed oils out, but they weren't making up 20%, 30% of their calories and 80% of their fat calories from seed oils, which we've went from consuming 0% of our diet to seed oils in 1900 to now they're making up 20 to 30% of our overall calories. And it's directly corresponded to a change in our fat cells. And so for the listener, I mean, when you eat fat, it doesn't just go in and come out. This is making up your cell membranes. So your body fat, your skin. When you're looking at your skin, I mean, you're seeing the food that you've eaten, and that's in a large part water, but it's also the fat that you've eaten and some proteins that you've eaten. But if you are making your body out of these seed oils, it's going to take you years to get rid of this, because linoleic acid is one major type of fatty acid inside most seed oils, virtually all seed oils. And I mean, it makes up maybe 50 to 80% depending on the seed oil. And so when you're eating that, its half-life is, I believe, 680 days. So it takes you 2 years just to get rid of half that amount. So if you've been eating, like I have my entire life up until I was in my early 20s, eating a lot of seed oils, whether that was fried foods or just in chips or in health food. I mean, you get a salad and you put ranch dressing on it. That's nothing but, soybean oil practically.
Yeah.
And so you think you're being healthy, but you're loading it up with seed oils, and then you eat that. And what we found in the science is that if you're making your fat cells out of linoleic acid, it doesn't necessarily have the right communication to help you burn body fat, because your body fat produces leptin, and this is the satiety hormone. So your brain might not register that you're full or you're hungry. So you might not actually be able to burn your body fat. So it might take you a little bit of time to achieve some goals if you haven't cut out seed oils.
Sure, that, and just to detox it from it altogether. I mean, that's exactly. It's compounded in your system, and to just get it out, to drain that. I mean, that's so incredible. I know I've often heard people say, most people can't sit down and eat 2 steaks, but if you put a bag of Oreos in front of them, they can eat, the whole sleeve of Oreos, because it's the way your brain is registering, and the satiety that you talked about. And, the steak is going to give you all the nutrients you need. It's going to give you that feeling of being full. It's going to give you that protein. The Oreos aren't. So that's why you just keep eating. One isn't enough. You just have to keep eating and keep eating.
Absolutely. Protein is the most satiating macronutrient. It's very hard to overeat protein. And I encourage everyone to get more protein, because we know that having muscle mass into older age is a predictor of longevity. I mean, sarcopenia is a major issue with individuals 50, 60, 70. Sarcopenia is loss of muscle mass. And the more protein you can get, the better off you're going to be. But then we're told that red meat is problematic, and, the list goes on and on.
The list goes on. So I saw there is, or at least it was new to me seeing it, you have a new bone broth protein powder that you've introduced.
I do.
I'm so excited to get one of those. So what is the rundown? Is it, 14 grams of protein in one scoop? Like, what are we looking at here?
So it's 20 grams of protein in a scoop. And this is beef bone broth protein isolate. And this is from grass-fed, grass-finished, regeneratively raised cows in New Zealand, where we source all of our organs from. So very pristine conditions in New Zealand. But then also we wanted to include our beef organs, which is we have a beef organs product, which is 5 of the most nutrient dense organs that are out there. This is liver, heart, pancreas, kidney, and spleen. So those are all in this protein powder. And then also we wanted to include medicinal mushrooms. And we can talk about why I believe medicinal mushrooms are good for individuals in autoimmunity, being certain autoimmune conditions, but we wanted to include those in there as well. And so, I mean, those medicinal mushrooms are actually grown right here in the United States, and those are regenerative organic certified. And we're actually going to the farm in Tennessee where they're grown next week as an entire team. We're going out there to visit and kind of see firsthand, and we'll get some content and share it across our social platforms. But this has been a protein powder that has been a long time coming. It's been in the works for over a year, and it's super high quality, third party, lab tested. And if you're wondering, it doesn't taste like organs. It doesn't taste like mushrooms. Like anybody out there thinking it doesn't taste like that. It tastes like tastes like vanilla and the other tastes like chocolate. And we didn't use any artificial sweeteners or stevia. We used monk fruit as a sweetener. And I think it tastes really good. It's not overly sweet, and I like to mix it in my smoothies or just drink it straight.
I'm so excited. One of the things that I learned on this journey is whey protein and even sometimes pea protein. It actually spiked my blood sugar. So looking for a protein that doesn't do that, which bone broth does not do that, I'm very excited to have a quick, because, I wouldn't do any of the shakes because it would just give me a huge spike in blood sugar. So I would go to the raw food, which, that's good. But sometimes you're in a hurry, you want to grab something, and without finding something that didn't have whey or pea protein, I'm so glad there's going to be a product that's bone broth.
It's one of the first products of many that we'll be launching in the near future. So we're excited to get this one out.
That's so exciting. Well, Craig, this has been amazing. I'm so excited that you came in this space. Where can people find you? I know I always put links for the products that I'm taking, but just give us the spiel so they can find you.
Yeah, so I'm most active on Instagram at Craig_McCloskey. That's where I'm at. I have a website, craigmccloskey.com, but most active also on YouTube. We have a Ancestral YouTube channel where I put out weekly episodes, whether that is interviews or my own education or recipes that we're making. I just made one, sourdough discard pancake with a protein powder. So I made that, and smoothies and all that good stuff. So that's on the Ancestral Supplements YouTube channel. But yeah, that's pretty much where you can find me.
Well, thank you so much again for coming on Everything's Messy podcast. And I really appreciate all the great work that you're doing. I enjoy the supplements, and just thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Sarah.
Hey, thanks so much for listening to Everything's Messy podcast. If you enjoyed the mess you heard here today, if you wouldn't mind leaving a review or maybe a follow, I will even take a messy comment, or otherwise, that would be awesome. Social media is where you can find me. I am on Instagram and Facebook at Everything's Messy Wellness. Website is at everythingsmessy.com. Email at sarah@everythingsmessy.com. Reach out, let me know what you think of the mess. I welcome any and all feedback. If you think you have a messy story and you would like to be a guest on my show, you can find the guest form on the website. Thanks again for listening to Everything's Messy podcast, and keep it messy.